Yes, I want to thank the chairman for yielding that move to strike last word. This is a really important discussion, and it's one that's long overdue. I got to Congress, Mr. Gates and I came in together in the same class. We've been here, we're on our 4th term. We have filed term limits bills ever since we got here. I think, if my memory is correct, I think the first bill that I sponsored or co-sponsored was a term limits bill. But we have never had a hearing, so far as I know, in the modern era on the subject, at least not so long as I've been involved, and so this is a day that's a long time coming. It's an important conversation. Some important points have been made here, and I appreciate Mr. Nell's amendment that in his mind the best case scenario, for at least for the House, would be 6 terms as opposed to 3 as the current bill stands. I have to confess I'm not exactly sure what the magic number is, but I do believe the principle is the right one, and I think this is a healthy debate. I'm under no illusion, like Mr. Gates said, that this is going to pass and become law anytime soon, but I think it's something we need to talk about and duly consider, and here's why. Because we all know that we're living in unprecedented times. We're only 247 years into this grand experiment in self-governance, and as a constitutional law attorney, I spent my career there before I came to Congress, I think a lot about what the founders intended. One thing we all should agree on, what they certainly intended, was that this body, which we've become the greatest legislative body in arguably in the history of the world, that it would be composed of citizen legislators, not professional politicians, career politicians, that people in their era, in their mind, you would have people from broad walks, different walks of life, different skill sets, sets of experiences, life experiences. They would bring different levels of acumen to the table, but they would all have things to contribute, and they would come to Washington and serve for a period of years, and then they would go back to their real life. They would go back to the blacksmith shop or the farm or the law practice or whatever. That has become an idea of the past, and I think it's hurt the institution. If you look at the polling right now across the country, I mean, we have record low approval levels of Congress, and also all of our institutions of government. Right now, we could all agree, you go home, if you did town halls and over the district work period, you probably heard a lot of what I've heard. We can't trust government. We can't trust any institution of government. Part of which, since we're here in the Judiciary Committee, and this is under our jurisdiction, part of the reason for that, the big problem, is the weaponization and politicization of the Department of Justice, by the way, that, you know, there's a 2-tiered system of justice, and they see special treatment for the mighty and the powerful like the Biden family, and overly aggressive prosecution of the president's political opponent, Mr. Trump, by way of one glaring example. We're having a hearing simultaneously on oversight about the staggering level of corruption and then cover-up of Hunter Biden and the Biden families profiting off their office and their family brand. All that is to say that the only way, these are desperate times, and desperate times call for desperate measures, and if we're going to restore the people's trust in the institution of Congress and in government itself, maybe the time has come for term limits. I certainly think it has. Let me read you one quick synopsis. There was an article from the Heritage Foundation in 1994. This idea has been bandied around about. They say skepticism about and distaste for long-term political careerism are central to the American experience. Term limits were contained in America's first governing document, by the way, we forget, the Articles of Confederation. They do not appear in the Constitution. Why? Primarily because its drafters saw them as, quote, entering into too much detail for a short document. It wasn't that they were opposed to it. They were trying to keep the Constitution concise. Several modern presidents have supported congressional term limits, and since the Constitution was amended in 1951 to limit presidents to 2 terms, many political scientists have observed that congressional term limits could cure the imbalance between these 2 branches of the federal government. The American people are in favor of the concept, and here's why in short summary. It prevents people in power from becoming too powerful. That's the beauty of our republic and representative government, a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and their duly elected representatives, and also it better reflects the will of the people, because then you do allow them to bring in new people, new ideas, fresh ideas. I also served in my state legislature. We had term limits in Louisiana, and I think it serves the body well. And you've seen a revolving group of leaders and people come in, and fresh faces and new ideas, and I think that's healthy. I think it's good. And at the end of the day, I think ultimately it will help us restore trust in this institution. And to me, that is a root problem that we all need to be working on. So for all those reasons, I'm still thinking about the 6 terms, Mr. Nels, but I appreciate you lending that to the discussion, and I think through this process we'll come with the right number. I'm out of time. I yield back.
The gentleman